Illinois, how are you? I wanted to introduce people, as many people as possible, to this YouTuber, Simon Harris. Hello, Suzanne. How are you? Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the presentation yesterday. I hope the Smick Boys released their truth bomb this afternoon at 3 o'clock. I don't know if you picked up on it. If you, it's available at Smick FM. Their channel is Smick SMICK. Here, I'll stick it in there. I'm good, thanks. I'll stick this in the. So it's incendiary. It needs to be checked out. Yeah, I wanted to introduce people to Simon Harris, him with the unfortunate name, and he's nothing to do with our health minister. He's an English YouTuber, and he's got some great guys on here who also have got channels, Horus and the Iconoclast. You might have heard of the Iconoclast. I think the Iconoclast has got like 500,000 subscribers. All English nationalists. Well, Paul, how's it going, man? There's a amount last on COVID-19 legislation. Oh, were they back in court? I thought it was like what you call it? By the way, how's my sound going? Because I've got my new laptop, so I'm just checking it out. So I assume you can hear me because nobody's complaining. Give me the 5x5 Quig, whatever it will be, Quig by Quig. Yeah, so I'm going to play this. Hope you like it. It's very, very scholarly, in-depth analysis. They talk about Sinn Féin, nationalism gone wrong in the new regions of big ex-empires, like the UK would be the empire, and you've got like Northern Irish nationalism, as so-called nationalism, global homo nationalism, I suppose you want to call these, or anti-imperialist nationalism, like Sinn Féin, Scottish National Party, Plaid Cymru, and the Catalonian Party, whose name escapes me. But anyway, let's give it a blast. I presume you can't hear me. Can you hear me? I'll turn my camera off in a minute. Okay, there you go. Oh shit. It's just suddenly occurred to me that I probably didn't share the audio, because I often forget to share the audio. Everybody does. Garage does as well. So how are you guys doing? How are you guys doing? Right, okay, so I'm going back to share the screen. This time I'm going to do it right. I'm going to share the audio. Chrome tab. That's the one. Check how it looks. Okay, looks good. Here we go.
Okay, hello everyone, and welcome
over to Simon.
European Freedom live stream number 20. So we're getting into double figures. Well, we've been in double figures for a while actually, but it's getting quite impressive now, isn't it? And tonight we've got the current state of nationalism, which we're going to be talking about with my good friend Horus and with the absolutely fantastic Iconoclast. And so let's speak to Horus first.
How are you, mate?
I'm good, thanks. I know I say this every week, but it's a very big dinner. And I wish I could go out and walk it off before this stream. But
no, can you hear the guys okay? And one of you said the sound was wonky. Is that my sound was wonky or their sound is wonky? Oh, there's echo. But the echo is probably coming from my sound because I'm not using the headset. Hopefully their sound is okay. Fingers crossed. Maybe I should plug this stuff in. Yeah. Testing. Breaker for a copy. Give me a 5x5 there, anybody? Is that any better? Can you guys hear me okay? The important thing is that the video plays. That's the important thing. That you can hear the sound of the video. Because in a minute I'm going to disappear myself. Oh no, that's the wrong one.
You're not allowed anymore because I went out already earlier, so I'll be breaking the law.
But did you know that our stream last week has been transcribed by the fantastic Katana 17? So we've actually got a transcription of the whole show. He thought it was that interesting. And one of the words he couldn't get was Viennetta, because that is a very, very strange word. So I did correct him on Viennetta.
And I'm not much of an enunciator either. I sort of mumbled it probably. I'm
going to stay in the chat, but I'll probably just mute myself.
I appreciate it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and again, an opportunity to shill for the forum at talk.europeanfreedom.com. Katana has recently joined the forum, and I'm going to try to be pushing for people to help him to do transcriptions of things, because what he's trying to do is create an internet archive of interesting speeches, talks, documents, and getting them up in a single place. And obviously, once things have been transcribed, they're much more accessible. You can quote them, articles can be written about them, and it's a really, really useful resource. So if you want to come onto the forum, I'll be writing posts to give people help how to get in touch with Katana. You can meet him there, and perhaps we can get another little project going, which I think is kind of useful, really. Excellent.
I've got to get involved in the forum. I haven't done it much yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Have you got what's the state of your video at the moment? I mean, this is an interminable story.
It's an odyssey. Yeah, no, I'm still editing it. It's sort of second or third priority at the moment. So I'm just busy with other work and stuff. But yeah, I'm getting through it. It'll be up eventually. I did an interesting chat with Alison Chabot the other day, which is on my BitChute channel. If anyone wants to look at that, and if anyone finds the sound levels a bit uneven, I'm louder than her. Just you get past the first 5 or 10 minutes, and it's much better. And it was really, really good to talk to her. I love Alison. She's full of knowledge as well.
Yeah, she's great fun, isn't she? Okay, and we seem to be me and Horus are good mates. You know, we've been hanging around for a long time, but we've got a really great guest today. We've been incredibly rude at not fanfaring him in as soon as possible. So, Dan, my mate, how are things going with you? Dan, the famous Iconoclast.
I'm good, mate. Thank you for having me on. I view this show as like, well, I hate to compare it to the BBC, but if you were the BBC, you'd be BBC 4, very highbrow. So I'm enjoying coming on this week, and I've been enjoying your show over the previous weeks, especially last week, which I'm sure we'll get into later in the stream.
Yeah, we definitely will.
Yeah, but it's good to speak to you again, Simon. Don't know if you're going to go into the story, but I don't know if the audience know, but you and I first encountered each other about 3 years ago, and we were both in very different places, and it's just interesting to see where we both are now. It's an interesting journey, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's a very interesting journey. I'm just going to put up what our first conversation was always all based on my interest in the Catalan independence movement back then. What we were talking about before we came on the stream is how both of us have moved on from those days. Because actually, our story goes a little bit before that. Because I started my channel, I think, the end of December 2016. When did you start yours?
I registered the channel around about October 2016, but I didn't upload anything until February 17, I think, around about that time.
Yeah, but I remember very early on, perhaps February, March, we followed each other on Twitter and kind of vaguely knew each other, and then finally spoke on, because it was October 2017, the Catalan independence movement really kicked off, and they looked as if they were going to, well, I believed at the time that they were going to achieve independence. I've now realized there are a load of globo homo bollocks, and unfortunately I can't, and I feel duped. But as you can see from the picture, this was a very important part of my red pill journey, understanding nationalism and taking part in all this. However misguided it was, I can now look back at and see how how misguided I think it was. But feeling nationalistic, joining in these massive demonstrations, and thinking we were gonna change the world was really important to me. Unfortunately, it's all gone down the shithole, which is a bit of a shame.
Well, I think what you were experiencing back then, and the thing that really appealed to you, which is what really appeals to me and everyone now who is getting involved in the movement these days, is that feeling of togetherness and being a part of something and being part of a collective and advocating for something together. You know, that's the real appealing factor of it. Now, I don't know much about the Catalan independence movement, where it went wrong, but I think I do remember asking you at the time about Marxist infiltrators or something, because there was a few reports going around that had, you know, caught my eye, and I can't really remember what your response was to that at the time. I think you were wary of it, but I think you were hoping that it would just kind of be brushed under the carpet and things would just sort themselves out. You know, that sort of innocent naivety that we all used to have in a way, without really looking at the reality of the situation and the people involved in certain movements and what they really want. So, I mean, what did happen with that? Is that basically how it went? Because I know they were all advocating for open borders and all that stuff not very long after that.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is that I actually knew that this would happen, because I'd had a radio show here in Barcelona on an English radio station, which was a Catalan politics show, and I'd done it with a member of Esquerra Republicana, who is the translation is the Catalan Republican left, who are the kind of the equivalent and are linked with their sister party in Scotland is the SNP, and so I was kind of privy to really high up political conversations, and everybody thought I was one of them. And I interviewed pretty much every significant member of the party. So I knew how corrupt they were, and I knew they wanted open borders. I knew it was international, you know, it was international globalism, socialism, call it what you like, the open borders rubbish, and they were going to destroy the country. But when it kicked off in 2017, you know, because all my friends are into it, the miss is into it because she's Catalan, my daughter's into it, and they wouldn't listen to their dad's soothsaying words. So I kind of got dragged back into it, and I made a few videos which actually went viral here in Catalonia, telling them what they needed to do. But yeah, it got completely cooked, and the politicians sold them out, and I think deliberately. And 3 years on, Catalonia is in a worse situation than it was 10 years ago, and refugees, for want of a better word, invaders, are being welcomed here by the day, and they just want more and more of them. And it's, in many ways, it's turned into just hating the Spanish and loving everybody else who isn't Spanish, which is utterly and completely ridiculous. So my thinking's moved on, really.
Yeah, so it's very similar to the SNP Scottish nationalism, quote unquote, that infects Scotland. It seems to be just a movement about resisting the English rather than anything else. You know, like, oh, they want independence from the UK only to give it away again to join the EU. It's like, and wasn't Catalonia, well, actually, I seem to remember the Catalan independence thing being quite Eurosceptic because of the police actions from the Spanish state. Did that change, or did they also want to join the EU after their independence if they achieved it?
No, I think you learned about the Catalan independence movement from me. So,
all right.
so I was trying to kind of shoehorn in my own agenda a lot of the time and trying to persuade them to be Eurosceptic. Okay, the fact that the European Union didn't respond when the Spanish on the voting day, the Spanish police beat up old ladies and you know, behaved generally pretty badly, but very effectively, actually. If you look back on it, they just shut it down using as much violence as was necessary. And the EU didn't respond because they actually had broken various, you know, of the UK dictates. And I was saying to my Catalan friends, look, you need to take this to the European Court of Human Rights. And if you don't win here, then the EU's no good. believing that the EU wasn't any good. And they kind of grumbled and groaned for a bit, but quite quickly they were back wanting to. Their original slogan was Catalonia, the next new state in Europe, or something like this. They've just got no idea what they're doing. It depresses me, actually. I'm going to start crying now. Yeah, because it was. I mean, it was a very important part of my red pill journey. Have you got any ideas why? I mean, obviously, I've got my ideas. Why do you think these? I mean, if you think about it, Ireland, Scotland, Quebec, they all turn into globo homo paradises, really. Once a failed independence attempt has, well, obviously Ireland's a little bit different, but Sinn Féin have embraced the same agenda.
I don't know. I think it's different for each place, but I had a guy write an article for my new magazine, and it was about Scotland and that whole scene. And he mentioned something. It's a cultural reference, but I hadn't thought about it before. The film Trainspotting, right? You know, it's a Scottish. It's like one of the most famous Scottish exports to the world, Trainspotting. But he said that, you know, the entire point of Trainspotting, the entire opening monologue was, you know, it's shit to be Scottish. And it was that sort of self-deprecation and, oh Christ, oh God, we're all heroin addicts. Life is miserable. And it's shit to be Scottish. And it's like, why do they think like that? And I know Scottish people are relatively proud, but they do have this sort of self-sabotaging attitude about the political realm, where they see all the problems in the world being associated with England and being part of this union. But if they had their way, they would join a bigger union that is globalist in nature, that would seek over time to just completely water down their own individual national identities. And they would see that as a better option than being, well, I don't mean to be rude, but being England's little brother. You know, it's, I really don't want to offend Scottish people there, but you know what I'm saying. It's the same with the Irish as well. I made a video a few years ago about the Irish 2040 project, which was it was a globalist scheme to increase the population of Ireland by about 1 million people. And Ireland's only got a very small population. And that would fundamentally change the fabric of Ireland overnight. It just would. And I made this video, and the only responses I really got from self-proclaimed Irish nationalists at the time was, well, we'd rather have Africans here than Brits. And I thought, well, wow, what a peculiar attitude that is. Not that I was advocating for British people to move to Ireland, you know, far from it. But they do see everything through that lens of, oh, fuck England. You know, it's very strange. And I don't know if the other countries around the world that also display these similar tendencies have the same sort of attitude towards their bigger neighbors or former colonial masters. I'm not really sure what it is, but it's an interesting phenomenon.
Well, I mean, you're echoing a conversation I had with a friend of the missus. Friend of the missus came down, 6 months ago, and I was trying to red pill them on Islam and the dreadful changes that were taking place. And they kind of say, yes, we've now got rapes, we've now got street crime, some of the neighborhoods are being taken over. But, and I said, you know, these people don't like you. And they're going to change your country, and they're not going to uphold this beautiful Catalan art and architecture. They're different. And she said, well, I don't care really, because I don't mind them, because they've never done anything as bad to me as what the Spanish have done. So it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same narrative.
Yeah, I just don't understand why. It's a victim mentality, isn't it? Really, it's oh well, England were mean to us in the past, you know, turn out Scotland or Ireland, so the other option must be better. It's like we're competing with this globalist union where, you know, if the Scots decided, okay, we want to be independent, but really independent, I wouldn't have a problem with that, really. I mean, I think that would be far more beneficial for them more than anything else. Now, whether they could handle it or not is another matter, but it just seems to me that nationalism means very different things depending on where you are. And yeah, I don't know. I've given up actually commenting on other countries, to be honest. I'm just focused on Britain now because it's the only thing I can speak with some authority about. And I don't want to I don't want to make enemies out Irish nationalists, because it's a bit dodgy. But you know what I'm saying, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. Horus, got any thoughts on this?
I've been trying to figure out why it is that anti. Well, I don't even know what you call what name you give to the attitude of the sort of minor nation nationalists, but is it anti-imperialism or something? So when they came to see themselves as subjects of greater powers, as sort of servants, as having been made servants of ours, that made them susceptible to. I don't even know what it is. I was going to call it leftism, but that only partly captures it, because it's not. Well, I mean, most of them are quite leftist in economics, but not that much. But in leftist values of all the other kinds, in values of all the other kinds, they are pretty leftist, right? I mean, the SNP is perhaps even more pro-transgender and all this stuff than our government and things like this. I mean, Plaid Cymru, Leanne Wood was their leader until about a year or two ago, and she's just an anti-far activist. Like, I didn't even realise at first, but I mean, absolute buffoon as well, like a moron. And seeing themselves as subjects of these greater powers like England or Spain, I guess, just makes it seem natural to them that they would adopt non-conformist or anti-establishment ideas of every other kind. But I mean, that's only half an answer. Do you know what I mean? It's a very unsatisfying explanation. I wish we could get to the root of it, because of course there are Welsh and Scots and Catalans who absolutely despise what their supposed rulers are doing. They don't want to sell out to fucking George Soros or anything like that at all. And we totally want to reach out to them, right? I mean, so as with so many things, it's a case of getting between the people and the traitorous leaders. And there are. I'm sure there are people, across. I mean, I know a lot of Welsh people, and yeah, they drift into these ideas because they very, very seldom encounter anyone who puts our ideas well. But we can reach out to them. I've got a friend who is an activist for Plaid Cymru, and he doesn't want Wales to be destroyed, right? He won't say so, but he is implicitly an ethno-nationalist, right, in some way. But he's in the bind of, he puts independence from Britain first, right? And therefore he basically admits he has to go along with Plaid Cymru because it's the only, it's the only group flying the independence flag. And he says once that's sorted, then yeah, he will confront the immigration question. And I've said to him, by that point, you will be a minority. I mean, Welsh independence is not coming anytime soon. It is growing there. It is growing, but still, it's going to be decades, right? By that time, Wales will be something like half African and Asian. And he doesn't seem to want to confront that. But there are people like that who we can, it's very hard to divide them from these traitor parties, but we've got to try. We've got to work on them. So I don't have the solution, but I would say don't give up on them.
Yeah, I just want to say something else about the Scottish situation specifically. Now, this is a personal anecdote and an observation, but I think it's important either way because it does kind of feed into this attitude of, standing for nothing. So last year I went to Edinburgh, and Edinburgh is a beautiful city. I'm sure many people in the chat have been. Beautiful architecture, it's just one of those cities that makes an impression on you. But then I decided, while I'm here, I'm going to go and see what the Scottish Parliament is like, because you can go in, you can have a look around. And when I saw the actual building, I thought, is this a joke? Like, it looks like Sauron's lair from Lord of the Rings. It looked so soulless and evil, and it's got all this like horrible, design on it, this modern art bullshit design. All of these jagged metal pieces. It just looks like a cancerous lump in the center of an otherwise beautiful city. And I thought, you know what, that's very appropriate. Like, I can imagine Nicola Sturgeon going there every day. It is, I don't know what it is, but it seems to filter down from things like that. And this anti-Scottishness disguised as Scottish nationalism does manifest itself in things like that. And I just thought it was very interesting. I've never seen the Welsh Parliament. Maybe it's similar, but you compare Westminster to something like that, and you think, my God, the problems are so deep, even aesthetically. Like it's a rejection of that traditional feel and movement. You know,
with the Scottish Parliament building and that institution in general, that in particular, sorry, that is I think of as very Blairite as well, because they got in and they started off the devolution process in earnest. I think it was an issue in the late 70s, but the Blair government, I think maybe they won a lot of support in Scotland and Wales by promising that, and they did deliver on it. And I don't know what their thinking was, but when you talk about a hideously modern, in the worst sense, building plonked in the middle of a beautiful city, it really is like charming, magnificent city, Edinburgh, especially if you go to the top of that mountain and look down on it. It's just gorgeous. But
absolutely,
they've done that. That says everything about the Blair government. It reminds me of I think Peter Hitchens and maybe other people have argued the same, that it was such a mistake to think of Blair's government as in the way that the far left regarded it, which was kind of a betrayer of the left. Nothing could be further from the truth. All they did was they abandoned socialist language and the old sort of post-war methods of imposing socialism, the old Labour model of imposing socialism. But that was the price they paid to get into power, so that they could impose leftism and modernism and anti-British, anti-whiteness, anti-familyness, everything. Deliberate destruction of society. What is often called cultural Marxism. They paid the price of being a little less radical in economics, so that they could push evil leftism in every other area, and obviously especially immigration. But I mean, I would say, the Scottish government, and look at them, people like Nicholas Sturgeon, like just goblins, just horrible, hideous creatures, and they just exist to destroy their own people. And it's the culmination of the sort of quasi-Marxist Blairite dream. The cult, I don't know what you call it, the cultural Marxist left or whatever. They did a job, and we have to. I mean, if we ever get in power, we've got to literally just go through every law they passed, and just repeal all of them, every institution they founded, every person they employed, and fire all of them, cancel all their pensions, repeal all their laws, close every NGO, every Quango, everything, close all of it, denounce all of it. If they made apologies to foreign nations, like unmake the apology, everything. Just rip it down, all their buildings and everything. Holyrood as well. That cost something. It was one of those many projects that. This is way off the point of this whole discussion, but that was one of the many buildings, like the Millennium Dome, the Millennium Stadium, Wembley Stadium, Crossrail now, several others, right? That were, or the Olympics, that were like, they just give some number. They say, it's going to cost like 1 billion. Well, Holyrood they said something like 100 million. It ends up costing 1 billion. And it's blatant fraud as well, right? That that there's just backhanders going all over the place. It's the other thing about the Blair government, they're just robbing us. They're just, I mean, I can imagine the SNP government is just robbing the population blind as well. And there's legal ways of doing these things, and they'll be doing it illegally as well. They're just, these people it's a criminal cartel. The whole ruling class, this is something I've said loads of times, but our aim as nationalists, apart from, saving ourselves demographically and reversing that, is just to destroy the existing ruling class, to take down all of them, prosecute them, take their second homes, take their first homes. I don't give a fuck. Absolute vengeance on them, and just treat them as criminals, a whole class of criminals. So, I don't know if it's quite on point, but
I think if you stop and think about it, it's not with Blair. It wasn't just the immigration, but the whole devolution policy is an express, an express policy which will ultimately destroy the United Kingdom or Great Britain and Northern Ireland. It pulls it apart, and I'm going to get this name in early on in the stream in order to get rid of all the shit early on. Because I've been reading a lot about Jose Antonio Primo de Rivera recently. I think in 2 articles' time, he's going to write about how allowing Catalonia and the Basque Country political power promotes disloyalty to the state, because it's in once the parliament exists, it only exists for the purpose of being against the central state. And so the only way that political parties can get a decent amount of money is by getting votes, by causing a fight, basically. So it's a deliberate policy that creates disintegration of a country. And okay, I doubt whether Tony Blair would have read Jose Antonio Primo de Rivera for the second time, but there was enough literature around in the 20s, 30s, arguing this point, that Blair and his government would have been aware that this was a way to further destroy any unity Great Britain had, even bigger traitor.
And also to get, and the regionalisation policy they tried to impose on England as well, it all fits with the common what's it called, the UK column Brian Gerrish sort of people, they pointed this out, that all the devolution and the regionalisation policies, they all helped to make us subject to the EU, which makes it extra sweet that we actually managed to get away from the EU. So it's one thing that we got right. But like the devolution thing, I think it was to encourage things like the SNP now to leave Britain to become part of the EU again. You know, it all fitted with that. It wouldn't matter if Britain broke up, because it's just going to be a region of the EU anyway, or several. So it all fitted with his true allegiance, which was to the scum who rule the EU, the anti-European scum.
Dan, any thoughts?
No, I completely agree. I just think that I mean, I don't really have anything else to add to what Horus just said there. Actually, I think his his tirade there is what everyone's thinking. I just it's different, isn't it? That's all I can say. It's very different up there. But like we said, the will of the real Scottish people, they are proud of their identities. They are proud of their ancestry, you know, the clan system and all that sort of stuff. But they're just not allowed to express it. And there's nothing allowing them the opportunity to express it either. There's nobody up there that represents them. They are politically homeless in a way. And, you know, I mean, that's all I can really say in it. I hope people up there start to put things together, because they desperately need it.
Okay, before we move on to the next topic, whilst we're talking now, you mentioned your magazine. Let's have a quick overview of the Iconoclast channel news. I don't know if everybody knows. I hope everybody knows. But Dan has a magazine. Can you tell people a little bit about it, and you know what it consists of, how they can get hold of a copy?
Sure thing. Yeah, I started a magazine not long after we first chatted, actually in October 2017. Simon. Long story short, it's an opinion magazine where people write articles about whatever's on their mind socially, politically, and I print it, I design it, I send it out to people. People really enjoy it, and the best thing about it is people share it around, so new people can get a hold of it that don't watch my videos and who aren't in this YouTube scene. A physical product can do that. It can reach people that you couldn't normally reach just with an online platform. And over the years, you know, we were talking just before, Simon, about how you and I have changed. We've gone from basically civic nationalists all the way to where we are now, the ethno-nationalists. And if you read the early editions of my magazine, you can see that change, you know, front and center. It's actually a bit cringe for me to read the older ones now, especially the first one, because, you know, I was still stuck in that mindset. And when I reprinted them a couple of months ago, the older copies to re-release, because people were asking for them, I read through them and I'm like, my God, I hope people don't buy this and think that's what I think now, because I definitely don't. But they do act as a time capsule, actually, of this political journey that we all undertake. And I can cringe at them from a personal perspective, but it is a signifier of what we all go through in a way. It's just written down on a page, printed, and it'll always be there. And I think from that perspective, it's very interesting. But if people want to get involved, you can just, well, I mean, there's details on my website, iconoclastmagazine.com. You can, contribute stuff there or get in touch with my other email address. I'm not really keeping up with it right now because of coronavirus. So I'm kind of taking a bit of a break from answering emails and stuff. And the physical copy of the new one wasn't able to be released because I can't leave the house to send them. So there you go. But as a project, it's gone from strength to strength. And I hope people enjoy it. I hope they get stuff out of it, because reading back on it, I can see how I've changed and how my audience has changed along with me as well, and the contributors that submit things. So from that perspective, I think it's very valuable.
Yeah, I'll put all the necessary links in the description box. I've been a bit remiss. I now realize I forgot to do this earlier this afternoon. But also, hasn't your channel been under a bit of an attack recently? Are you able to stream now, or are you able to upload?
Yeah, I'm able to upload now. I was banned for a week or so. But, this is, I don't want to get too far into this because, it's the usual suspects that are trying to get me taken down. They've already managed to get, I think, 2 of Unwashed channels taken down recently. And I've already got a strike on my channel. I've got a permanent warning, which I can't get rid of. And yeah, they just mass flag my videos trying to get me off. And I think they will succeed eventually, to be honest. I'm resigned to losing the channel at some point. I've come to terms with that. It doesn't bother me. I think the people who still want to find me will still be able to find me. But it shows what we're up against, because, listen, I've never advocated for violence or anything ridiculous like that on my channel. I simply speak my mind, give my opinion as a regular bloke on what's going on. And that's, it's too much for some people. They just say, shut it down. And that's what they've been trying to do. So yeah, I have taken a bit of a break from uploading just to kind of let the waters settle a bit. But it's going to happen at some point, mate. It just is. And, people can follow me in other places. And it'll be interesting to see what the reaction is, though, from the sort of free speech absolutists, because, not a peep so far. And it's not just me this is happening to. It's happening to loads of people. I mean, I was banned outright last year. Nick Fuentes is gone. James Allsop is gone. Red Ice TV are gone. It's happening all the time. So there's nothing I can really do about it. You just got to deal with it. Unfortunately, that's the climate we're in. But I think we're onto something. If we're this much trouble, they want to take us down. I think we're onto something real.
I imagine the people coming after you now are coming after you because they've identified you as part of the gang, the group, which they've now, just in the last few weeks, begun to perceive as the main threat, which they call the ethno-nationalists, right? The anti-fascist forces didn't seem to pay any attention to it until quite recently. And now,
no, I don't get any trouble from the left, really, to be honest. It's all, especially recently, it's all the civic globalists that have been coming after me, and unapologetically so as well.
Right, is this people who were already subscribed to a channel from some time ago?
Maybe they were at some point. I mean, I don't know them personally. I just think, as soon as I was public with my association with Patriotic Alternative, I've had Mark on my channel. I've been on his show. I'm going on again next week on his show. I just think that was a line in the sand for some people. And, we all know there are certain topics that they don't like you to talk about. They would have been fine if I just stuck to the Islam thing for the past 3 years. But, what else can you say about that? It's just, you can't say anything else. You've got to move on to other things and more important things as well. And, that's not kosher in their eyes, shall we say. But, it is what it is, to use that annoying phrase. And I just see it as a signifier that we're onto something and that we're going somewhere.
I mean, it's all very well to say that. Sorry. It's all very well to say that. Okay.
Sorry, go on.
No, it's all very well to say that, though, but it is demoralizing, isn't it? Doesn't your heart sink when it's difficult to describe to the audience as someone who's put probably 10 hours of work into a video when you get that video removed and you've got there used to be 3-month strikes. that they used to stick around for. I think the policies have changed, but it's really depressing. I'm expecting a strike at any point, and so I want to do some more shilling. If you look in the description, I've got a link to a backup channel. Just subscribe to it, because if I go away sometime, I'm not going to be uploading anything there. But if I go away sometime, it would be nice to have a couple of thousand subscribers there, so we can just move this. It's on a different Gmail account, so it should be okay for a while. You've got a strike as well, haven't you, Horus?
Yeah. I did. Yeah, it's worn off now. Yes, but you still get put on like a 3-month warning or something because of that, so that will last for a while.
It's a warning forever, I think.
I don't know if I've got a permanent warning yet. I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe I should look again. I just assume. I mean, I did say with my very first, not my very first, the second video on my channel, but the first one that anyone paid any attention to, called Against Brian and Avi. I did warn people straight away that, like, because it's addressing the Levantine tribe who claim the right to decide what we can and can't say in our own country. I did expect to get banned from YouTube at any time. So I've always been telling people to subscribe to me on BitChute as well, which quite a few have. I've got like something like 1,700 or something, which is quite good for me. So all my videos will be there, and I don't mind. I just assumed that at some point I would have to sort of retreat to BitChute. I have got a second channel that might last a bit longer. I don't know, called Horus Live, which is linked on my main channel. If anyone goes to the homepage of my main channel. Have you got a second channel, Dan?
I do. I don't use it. It's basically just something that I might use if I need to at some point. But I think, Simon, you were saying about demoralizing. It did used to affect me, because it's not just the strikes and the potential ban that you have to worry about, but it's the shadow banning as well. It's the suppression of your content. So I don't really get recommended anymore. People don't get notifications for my videos. People get unsubscribed from me as well. And I've seen this happen in real time. I was actually sitting next to a friend of mine in real life, who I know for a fact is subscribed to me because he watches my stuff. And, I've been friends with this guy for years. And he said, well, hang on, let me check my account, see if I'm still subscribed to you. He logged in and he was unsubscribed from me. So I've seen this happen. And that is demoralizing, because, not to sound like it's affecting me in a huge way, and I'm not an egotist in this way, but, my videos at one point early last year were getting over 100,000 views per video regularly. I've had videos that have gotten over 1 million views. They're banned now, of course, from YouTube. And now, it's hard to crack 30,000. And yeah, of course, it does affect you a little bit as a creator, because you put all that time and effort into it. And your message isn't really getting seen as much. And yeah, all of these things do affect you. But at the end of the day, you've just got to, this is going to happen, because we know we're the underdogs. We know that they've got control over these big corporations. And for the time being, we have to play in their backyard. I mean, that's just the way it is. I think work is happening behind the scenes in regards to this, trying to get our own platforms set up. And I think people should be looking into that. What I've done is I've set up a mailing list, so people who want to have updates from me can sign up, and every so often I'll send them an email. I haven't done it for a while. I'm going to do one this week. And I think that's a good way of keeping your core viewers engaged with you. And that few thousand people are always going to be there if you need to reach out to them for a little bit of help to share your stuff around or whatever it happens to be. So it's just, you got to adapt with it. And yeah, it's demoralizing, but what else can you expect at this point? You just got to get on with it, don't you?
Yeah, a mailing list is totally a good idea. I think I'd say just as a general approach, like I think it was Mark who said, I might be wrong, but that we are engaged in guerrilla warfare, right? So we just got to keep adapting our tactics, and whatever we can use, we should use. Whatever works best for us that is still available to us, not being shut out of. What I always often imagine as well is that, say I get chucked off YouTube, I'll retreat to BitChute for a while. Maybe I'll start using Library as well. If I get chucked off Twitter, I'll use Gab more. And it's not satisfactory. You want to be where the main action is. But I'll do that for a while, and I'll use a mailing list, and I'll use Telegram. And then at some point, I'll come back, and I'll just have another crack, and I'll just keep being like a wasp to them. Do you know what I mean? And just because we are demoralizing them as well. I mean, the fact that they're resorting to pathetic things like this, like stopping people seeing your videos, like so, all right, it has some effect, but it also if we're just relentless in coming at them again and again and again, it is demoralizing for them as well. I think in some ways, I know they've got a lot more power. I know they've got bigger resources, but it does have some effect. Like, imagine being someone at YouTube who's continually being told, all right, you need to suppress this channel, right? Or you need to adapt the algorithm to stop people seeing this guy called Dan in Newcastle. Am I right?
Close enough.
sorry, the other side. And
South Shields, isn't it?
Well, I live in
Shields,
Gateshead right now, but I'm a Markham originally, so yeah. There you go.
And they're like, yeah, we need to adapt the algorithm because too many people are seeing this guy from Gateshead's videos. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think we're having effects that we can't see as well. But the mailing list is one of the hardest possible things for anyone to shut down. How, like, so far, it's not legal to interfere with our ability to send emails. I wouldn't put it past them, but you know, a mailing list will keep going, and just whatever channels we can use to keep informing people. It's even if we're forced to retreat to only a mailing list, there's still more than people had 20 years ago. It's, you know, we should be just keep pushing it. I think just be relentless. That's the way I see it.
Come on my forum, folks. That's what I say. Then you'll also automatically get on my mailing list. Anyway, I want to do a few super chats before we move on to the great Mr. Griffin. And the first one is from Zed Des, who sends $10 regular contributor, lots of places. Thanks for that, mate. And he says, thank you for advancing the conversation. Love to you and yours from Quebec, who we've just mentioned. Damien sends $15 and says, sorry to go off topic, but is anyone thinking that third of all COVID-19 cases in Britain are BAME, because a third of England most likely is now BAME? 2011 census keeps getting quoted as if it's a great reference point. I think what do you think about that, guys? Are BAME a third of the British population? I don't think they're quite that high yet. Probably 15, perhaps 20%, are they?
I reckon maybe 25, but 25. It might, the next census might show 25%, although there's God knows how many illegal immigrants as well. So it could be, it's possible. But I do believe the vitamin D thing as well. Like having evolved in hotter environments, they're less well adapted to produce vitamin D in our conditions, and that is one of the essential things for your immune system. So I think that's the main explanation. But yeah.
And they also congregate in large groups, don't they? I mean, what was that report I saw? 25% of deaths are actually Muslim. And, you know, I mean, let's not try and get into a back and forth about whether COVID-19 is what it is. You know, the debates go on forever and no one gets anywhere. But, you know, you read something like that and you think, well, that does make sense because, you know, they all gather together for prayer. They live in big households. You know, some of them got multiple wives, lots of kids running around. I mean, yeah, it makes sense. And of course, the powers that be are trying to spin this as some sort of inequality issue. You know, oh God, yeah, of course it affects the black people more because it's inequality, isn't it? Well, no, it's not. It's you know, it's behavior patterns and what you just said, Horus. You know, it all comes together. But again, expect a big inquiry after this is all done, and expect us to have to, well, maybe not pay reparations. I don't know. Or maybe we do. Maybe there'll be something set up where, like, okay, taxpayers' money goes to this organization where it's specifically set up to fight disease outbreaks in the BAME community because they get it worse or something. I don't know. Anything is possible at this point, but I don't think they're quite that high of the population yet. A third, not yet, but could be wrong. You never know.
Well, one other thing I'd say about the virus as well is that you got people on the right of the Tory party. You got Donald Trump and now people in Germany, like some of the tabloids in Germany apparently, and various others calling for suing China or in some way trying to pressure them to pay reparations to these Western countries on the order of probably in total maybe like $1 trillion or something, huge amounts. Like Britain, you know, like people like Owen Paterson, like right-wing Tories, or fairly right-wing Tories, you know, pro-Brexit Tories, they're like saying, yeah, we should send a bill to China. I don't know exactly what form that takes, but £350 billion, right? And in Germany, according to the same. And I was just thinking, like, if I was China, I've got a simple reply to that. You didn't close your borders, So fuck you. Vietnam has had something like 65 cases and less than 10 deaths, and they're next to China, right? And they got loads of Chinese people living there, and Vietnam just closed and just took authoritarian measures immediately, and just said, right, yeah, if you fly into the country now, you've got to stay in quarantine, strict quarantine, right? And you've got to pay for it yourself. Thailand has closed everything. No one can enter now. Various other countries, New Zealand has, and they've got a much smaller problem. So if Britain comes knocking to China and says, like, yeah, we want 350 billion pounds, right? If I was trying to just go, fuck you, you're kidding me.
Okay, next super chat, guys. Next super chat comes from the lovely Serena JB, who sends 3 GB pounds. Oh, and by the way, somebody in the chat has informed me that Z Des is a lady, to quote. I didn't know this, but I will remember this for future reference. But Serena JB, thanks very much, Serena, says, I used to be a For Britain member, although I've long since moved on. What is your opinion of Anne-Marie Waters and her party, and the fact that she mentioned you in her recent video stating PA? If you don't mind, Serena, we're going to talk about Nick Griffin next, and then we'll talk about the various other CivNat things and Anne-Marie Waters' recent outburst. So I'll leave it till then. But I thought I'd get the super chat in now anyway. And the fantastic, the Thin Red Line sends another $5 and says, how about setting up a page from where nationalists could stream and upload videos, and having subscribers paying for example, £5 a month? The first goal would be to reach 50,000 subscribers. After, we would have the beginnings of a media empire with news, film, etc. Well, I think we have to talk about the data and computing man, Mr. Ralph, for that. Ralph Maslamani. I think he's a man amongst our ranks who might be capable of, even if he wasn't capable of doing it himself, he might be capable of finding the people to set it up. Not a bad idea, though. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I mean, that's something to poll the chat, really. I mean, would people in the chat be interested in, having a monthly subscription to a group of content creators who work together in some sort of media company, like, let's say £5 a month, and you're guaranteed to get podcast videos, all that sort of stuff? Because, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's up to the audience, really, whether that sort of thing would fly. But yeah, I mean, if it did work, it would produce the funds to kind of put into activism and to further our cause and all that stuff. So yeah, maybe.
Do they mean by a page? Do they mean a website or what?
Well, it'd have to be some kind of website. I mean, I think it's a good idea. I think lots of these things need to be mooted, but I think most of us have got so much on at the moment that, yeah. But we'll talk about this later when we get to the optics section and how things are moving together, how we're beginning to work together better. These plans are going to be knocked about, and as things get better organized, I'm sure not necessarily this, but more ambitious projects will come to the fore. Okay, let's move on and let's talk about, where is he? Nick Griffin, our friend, your friend of mine, Nick Griffin. I suppose virtually everybody saw the stream last week, which I thought was very stimulating. Got quite a lot of criticism initially, but my view anyway is that it will end up being a net positive, because I think the majority of people, as I've been saying in lots of streams, if you were blackpilled by one interview with one former British nationalist leader, and if that means that you've given up and you're going to go back to watching the television, playing games and pornography, then you haven't got a very robust set of ideas, have you? And grow a pair. That's what I would say. I saw that you were going to be the Three Stooges, but apparently Hugh had a hangover, I guessed. But you and